Sebring International Raceway welcomes both the cars and the stars of Pirelli GT4 America for a rare triple-header weekend of action here at one of North America's most storied venues. We had a washout earlier this year at NOLA Motorsports Park, and that means there's an additional race here on the docket for Pirelli GT4 America, and it comes as championship battles start to come into full focus. Hello, my name is Ryan Marine. Amanda Busick is patrolling the pits for us. Alongside in the broadcast booth is Calvin Fish. Calvin, this is going to be an interesting race because the grid was set by qualifying times from NOLA Motorsports Park back in the spring. Much different track, much different set of circumstances here in Sebring.
Yeah, very much so. So cars that may have performed well there may not be so strong here. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see some cars potentially having pace with a poor track position to start this race, fight their way through in this 60-minute race here this afternoon.
Let's talk championships. In the AM class, it looks like Charlie Postins and James Clay are on their way to repeating as class champions. They could clinch that before the end of the weekend, but it's much different in both Silver and Pro-Am where titles are still up for grabs.
Yeah, this is really a pivotal weekend. I think it's kind of moving day in terms of 5 rounds to go, including this afternoon's race for the championship title. And that Pro-Am battle has been sensational. James Walker, Tyler McQuarrie, they're having quite the year. Coming off a run of 3 wins in the last 4 races, giving them a 20-point lead over Travis and Hart. But that Porsche looks pretty tasty here this weekend.
That could be one story to keep an eye on, the strength of those Porsches and how that fits into the championship battle. Well, let's go ahead down to the pit lane and check in with Amanda Busick.
Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. I was just talking to Zach Anderson. There's 5 races left in this championship, but on Monday there will only be 2, so a busy weekend for GT4. And you guys won the first race in NOLA, but there's been so much to happen since we were there earlier in the spring and now here. I want to talk to you about the return of your teammate, JC Dubetz. We did cover his injury at the last race and broadcast. It was a one-man band for you, but what can you tell us about JCD?
Oh gosh, everything I've said already this year. He's a rock star. I'm lucky to be his teammate, and I'm so fortunate that he rehabbed himself so quickly. And he's only, I mean, it was supposed to be 8 to 12 weeks, and he bumped that down to 3 to 4. He put his foot down to the throttle and just worked really hard on getting back. It was really, really weird without him, and now the team is back, and we have a job to do.
I did talk to the team, and you guys are going to and from the Airbnb just to keep JCD rested here this weekend. You are the points leader in this series. When we closed this thing down in Indy last year, could you have predicted this?
No. I mean, it was always an opportunity maybe for me and John to be together. We've worked together for a long time as coaches, looking in from the outside. This came together literally 10 days before Sonoma green flag. And it was 2 friends on the phone, and John asked me, you want to race together in Sonoma? You want to find some money and go do this? And Sonoma was what it was, but NOLA really put us on the board, showed what we can do, and then COTA, VIR, Road America, we've showed up. So I am nothing without the group of people behind me. These guys are here 15 to 18 hours a day in this heat underneath these race cars doing this work. What I do is, I mean, it pales in comparison to the effort they put in. So everything is dedicated to the people that support us, and most importantly, the people that wrench on these machines and get us to the front.
For those that may not know, and because I can see a little sweat already building up on you, just talk about the heat on a driver. And like I said, you guys have 3 races in a row here this weekend. How difficult is that?
Yeah, it's very difficult. It zaps you. You receive all this. You receive it just existing outside, and then you get into a 140 to 150 degree cockpit. The cars do have AC, but when you're full throttle for a while, it starts to feel like a hairdryer blowing on you. So that's the reason why we go to our Airbnb. We get in the AC. We try not to zap ourselves. We zapped ourselves a little bit yesterday, and we responded by taking breaks away from the track, and we'll continue to do that and show up.
Thank you, Zach. The Auto Technic BMW will start row 3 today.
Zach Anderson, 2020 AM Class champion in this championship, but this is the opportunity he's been waiting for his entire career, a chance to fight for overall wins, to win that Silver Class championship And it's up for grabs. 25 points is his margin coming into this weekend.
Yeah, I thought it was ironic that Eric Bachelot did the photo bomb there, because it's his pair of drivers that sit those 25 points back with Mackay Stevens, Jesse Webb. They've got 3 wins on the year, have really been such a solid combination with Mackay and various teammates over the last few years. They're always right there knocking on the door for championships. So they've got a bit of work to do, but I think it's going to be a fun chase for that title here this year with 5 rounds to go. It looks like the Conquest car is quick here this weekend again, so they're going to have something to say about that championship lead come Monday, as Amanda alluded to.
Well, talking about that Conquest car, they might be one of the teams that was wishing this race was run in NOLA like it was earlier in the season, because they had really strong pace. You might remember that drag race to the line for the win in the one GT4 America race that was run there. Mackay Stevens came up so close, a little bit short in a photo finish. The result actually was overturned by a photo review. That car was extremely strong there. To be determined how stout that Mercedes is here this weekend.
Yeah, they've been, as we expect, up in the top 5 this weekend, so I think they'll have something to say. So much, I think, with the Mercedes is all about track position. I think in terms of lap time, they can be super competitive, but sometimes they struggle against some of the other manufacturers down the straightaways here. And there are some long straightaways here where that really comes into play. So if they have a good start, get the track position, I think they have the pace, as whether you get bundled down and then you're into that raceability of a car that does not have straightaway speed.
This is the car in question, 34 machine, Mackay Stevens, Jesse Webb, who has been so impressive in his rookie season for this team. First time racing a GT4 car, really stepping out of Canadian touring car racing and into this car. He told me before the season started, I'd never driven anything like this before, and he has proven to be a quick study. We'll keep an eye on how they progress throughout the races here this weekend. Great field of cars as ever, Calvin. Great mix, certainly, and there have been some tweaks in terms of the balance of performance. We expect to see maybe a slightly different pecking order than the last time these cars were out on track.
Yeah, I think so. It seems like the BMWs have maybe been pegged back a little bit, probably more in the zone of where they should be. So they still had 3 cars in the top 10 in FP2, so it's not like they're slow, but I don't think they're going to have such a strong as we saw at Road America.
We were talking championship points, and this is what we're looking at in the silver class here. Zach Anderson on his own at the top of the standings. That's because, as mentioned, John Capestro-Dubets missed the races at Road America, sitting out with a back injury. He is back in the car, though, here this weekend. Finds himself 3rd in points behind that pairing of Stevens and Webb. Kevin Boehm and Kenton Cook, they're also there just hovering on the fringe. They need a weekend here that banks some points. They told us before the start of the weekend that that it's a make or break weekend in the championship for that Random Vandals pairing.
Yeah, and Kenton will start that car from the front row, so they got the track position. It's really a key whether they can hang on to it, because I think Parker Thompson on the outside of the front row is going to be awfully tough here in this first stint at least.
Pro-Am standings, you talked about this pairing earlier. James Walker Jr., Tyler McQuarrie, their big rivals for the championship are Matt Travis and Jason Hart. They've been there, they've done it before. In the case of Hart, he's a 2-time defending champion in that class. Did it with 2 different co-drivers. Reunited with Matt here this year. And the interesting subplot there is that James Walker and Matt Travis are really good friends off the track. They often share transportation to and from these race weekends because they live close to each other in Texas. So it is a friendly rivalry, but a rivalry nonetheless.
Yeah, and that's the whole key with racing. You've got to put that to one side. And it's tough if you're having dinner with someone on a weekday at home and suddenly side by side into a corner, you got to put all of that to one side.
Let's take a look at how the cars will line up for the race here today. Race 1 of 3 at Sebring International Raceway. And starting on the pole position, as mentioned, Kenton Cook. Again, this grid set back at NOLA Motorsports Park back in the spring. We'll see if that BMW can stay up front. He'll have the impressive Canadian Parker Thompson, who's been quick all weekend, starting alongside. Kai van Berlo, he's from the Netherlands, but he goes to school in Miami. He'll start 3rd. Terry Borcheller on the pole position in the AM class. Then you find Mackay Stevens and Andy Lee. That car's been quick this weekend. They'll roll off from the 3rd row. John Capestro-Dubets makes his return starting 7th. Jason Hart will start 8th in a car that's in the midst of a championship battle. Row number 5, Tyler McQuarrie. He too in the championship hunts. Roman DeAngelis, part of this Heart of Racing team, will start 10th. In the 6th row, young Francis Seldorf and ACI Motorsports starting 11th. Aaron Povolato, owner-driver in the Schwest Povolato Aston, starts 12. John Jesbray in the 13th starting position will have Juan Pablo Martinez starting alongside in row 7. Back in row 8, Random Vandals M-Class entry of Al Carter and James Clay. To row number 9, Carter Fartuck for the Skip Barber School team and Rob Walker. Then to the 10th row of the grid, Colin Garrett starts next to Anthony Girazzi. Row 11 belonging to Richard Edge. Tyler Stone starting the car for Tech Sport. On the outside of that row, Roland Grimes and Harry Gonsacker back in row 12. David Peterman and Eric Powell driving solo this weekend. We'll talk more about that throughout the weekend, I'm sure. Brianna O'Meara Hunt starting 27th. Michael Oriema starts 28th. Joey De Silva and Robert Mao in row 15. And the final row of the grid, Chris Ruppel and Custodio Toledo. That's how the 32 cars will line up today for this 1-hour race, a sprint with a little intermission in the middle for a driver change. No tire change, just driver swap during the pit stop. And that pit stop so crucial to determine the outcome of this race. Let's talk racetrack here, Calvin, as the lights are still on the safety car. 17 turns in length, and this is a place, it might not have much in the way of elevation change, but it has a lot of character.
It really does. I mean, built on the old bomber base, really, in the early 40s, so a lot of the a lot of the track is built on those old runways and taxiways, so you can see the bumps. This is turn 17, not only one of the most difficult corners here at Sebring, I think it's one of the most challenging corners in all of motorsports because of those bumps as you're coming through there. It's just incredible how the car kind of bounds over there, tries to maintain the contact patch with those Pirellis. It is really a challenge for not only the drivers, but the engineers to get those cars set up to be more compliant there.
First opened in 1950 on the site of the Hendricks Army Airfield, which served as a training base for B-17 bomber crews from 1941 to 1946. Identified as a potential site to bring endurance racing to North America by aeronautical engineer Alec Ullman, for whom the back straightaway is named. And the first 12 hours of Sebring was held here March 15th of 1952. This venue also hosted the first ever U.S. Grand Prix. That was in 1959. A lot of history here, and although the track has evolved in terms of the facilities, a lot of it, especially the layout, although that too has had its share of evolution, much of that is still recognizable to those that would have raced here in the 50s.
It has. A lot of people talk about resurfacing and everyone scream, no, no, no. I mean, that is the charm and the character of this place. It'll wear you out, certainly, and it is very challenging to get the car to work over these bumps, but that is what Sebring is all about. It's got a lot of nuance to it, and it's very unique, but the one that I absolutely love, totally embraced it here coming for many years.
Always a passionate fan base to show up whatever is racing here at Sebring International Raceway. And they get 3 Pirelli GT4 America races here this weekend as the lights do go off on the safety car. Just another half a lap to go on this second formation lap. And let's take this opportunity to head down pit side once again and check in with Amanda.
Well, I just want to talk quickly about that quadrant sitting in row 1 and row 2. I was talking to Parker Thompson quickly before this race and just on surviving turn 1 here at Sebring, and he said he's going to be knuckle gripped on the steering wheel and making it through, but super confident in the Toyota Supra here this weekend at Sebring. And then right behind him, starting on the other side, Kay Van Berlo, he said, if I make it through, when I make it through turn 1, what I'm going to be worried about is making sure hitting the brake points on turn 3. So it'll be action-packed as we head to green flag here at Sebring.
Well, both Parker and Kai are younger drivers, but they do have some fairly extensive running around this place. And this is one of those tracks, Cal, that having track experience, knowing the nuance of those bumps, that can make all the difference in the world.
It really does, because I'll be honest with you, as much as I raced here, I'd come through turn 17, I never felt like I was the same 2 times in a row because the bumps just put you in a different place. So the cars, however, looking at the cars and how compliant they are, I mean, the suspension wizards have really done a great job with these GT4 machines in this race, the GT3 cars that we'll see later this weekend, in terms of making these cars work a little bit better through these very difficult and bumpy corners.
3 races this weekend. We heard about the heat already. How do you prepare yourself for that challenge as a driver?
Well, it comes early, probably 2 weeks out. You need to start hydrating and preparing, and all sorts of training methods that you can do in terms of being in a sauna and things like that. But it's go time. It's actually, even though it's brutally hot out there in the paddock, it's a little bit cooler than we had here last year. Last year was just unbearable, so we've caught a bit of a break here.
5 races to go in the championship. Titles in 3 classes still up for grabs. We're about to turn them loose for the first of 3 times here at Sebring International Raceway for Pirelli GT4 America. On the Rover pole position, the Random Vandals Racing BMW, driven by Kenton Cook. He'll be on the right-hand side of the screen. The Rapid Canadian starting alongside Parker Thompson, just waiting for the green flag as they enter the VP acceleration zone. The race is on. Down the front straightaway at Sebring. 2 by 2 go the front few rows, but it's 3 and 4 wide further back. Here's that drag race into turn 1, side by side for the race lead.
Yeah, and I think Parker's going to try and send it around the outside, see if he can hang on. He recognizes that Kenton's in the middle of a championship battle, but Kenton does a good job there in that red and white BMW. Up front, Kai Van Berlo in the green and white Porsche slides into 4th. Terry Borchella right there up and over the curbs. That's Mackay Stevens to his inside.
Yeah, Stevens needs to get going as well. He's part of that championship duel in the silver class. Needs to make up a little bit of ground starting in the 5th spot. Able to sort out that duel with the AM class leader Borcheller, who has a fairly hefty margin over the next car in his class. Top 2 starting to separate themselves from 3rd place. Kai Van Berlo, who in his own case is now starting to come under pressure as well from the charging Mackay Stevens.
Andy Lee we're looking at there in that orange and black. Aston Martin went side by side with John Capestru de Betz down into the brake zone for turn 7, makes the move.
Oh, Cook feeling the pressure. He is guarding the inside already. Thompson looking like he is going to be the aggressor. Ooh, Jason Hart's got his elbows out. That's a big move to the inside.
Yeah, it may have been a little touch there with the BMW to open up the door. This is a very tricky corner. This is Tower Corner, turn 13. Really important there to get that launch. You're pretty much wide open all the way to Bishop Corner here.
Out of 13, the run to Billy Bishop. Fun section of the track. It's got great rhythm to it. Just everyone getting settled in. Tires, brakes, everything still coming up to temperature here in the Florida sunshine.
Let's see as we get down the Almond straightaway here, out of the exit at turn 16. This is almost like a dyno run. This will showcase who's got the horsepower, who's got the straightaway speed, the aero efficiency right now.
Kenton Cook in the lead. Parker Thompson looking hungry. Took a look to the inside. Falls back in line behind the BMW. We've seen Kenton keep that car in front in some pretty fierce duels over the course of this season, but Thompson got a great run out of 17, and the Supra will lead lap 1.
Yeah, really nice. Able to carve that corner a little bit tighter than Kenton was able to, but I'm not sure if he's got alongside far enough. You're going to challenge him around the outside. Well, he's so careful that Kenton's going to hold him off there. You don't want to get beyond that curb. You can see the sand there, driver's right on the exit of that curbing there. You go for quite a ride, really easy to tear up the underneath of the race car if you make that move.
Thompson and his Handley Motorsports team, they've been super impressive with their pace. Haven't always had the results to show for it over the course of this 2023 campaign. But when you consider this program only came together mere days before the start of the season, they've really done a lot in a short amount of time as Van Berlo coming under pressure. Stevens pokes his nose to the outside into the hairpin.
Yeah, Stevens there looking menacing. Just really had a great run there through turn 5 and 6 to put the pressure on Van Berlo, but he was certainly up to that challenge. Very proactive in picking that line into the brake zone for 7. We've seen so often this year, Mackay Stevens, you talked about the first race at NOLA, or the only race we had at NOLA. The racecraft that he used to almost get the victory there was superb over the last few corners there.
It was the definition of high commitment. Oh, here
Jason
we go.
Hart looking to the inside of Terry Borchella. This is Tower Corner, turn 13. He's going to give the 24 car a big run. Roman DeAngela's aboard that purpley colored Aston Martin, the Hard Up Racing entry there, the yellow stripes. You can see him there. I thought he was going to make a challenge. John Capestru de Betz trying to get back into rhythm there, right behind him.
Tyler McQuarrie in the mix as well. Looks like Hart was able to scythe alongside Borchello. Borchello's got the inside here. That leaves Hart vulnerable perhaps to DeAngelis. He himself gets balked. And here comes Tyler McQuarrie now in the slipstream. Aaron Povolato also in the Schwest Povolato Aston.
Yeah, DeAngelis was pretty clean there because he had to really allow Jason Hart to get back to the apex. This has taken a while to make this move, isn't it? And this is with the interesting dynamic, not racing for the same position in class, just an overall position change right there.
Terry Borchello, the seasoned veteran, leading in the AM class, drops that position for 6th overall. But he wants to keep as much of a buffer as he can for his co-driver, Nick Shanny, when it's Nick's turn to finish this race in about 30 minutes.
Yeah, the next AM runner is Al Carter, 14th overall. He and Paul Sparta share in that 98 Random Vandals machine, so you're exactly right. Terry wants to fight these other cars to keep that buffer, keep that delta between he and the second place runner in AM. Give Nick Shanny as much room to work with when he jumps on board.
Van Berlo still feeling the heat here from the Mercedes of Mackay Stevens. Cook has been able to fend off the challenges from Thompson, and despite their duel, has been able, those two, to open up an advantage of just over a second over the battle for 3rd. Top 2 are the top 2 in the silver class. Stevens needs to get by Van Berlo, who leads in Pro-Am, to be able to get to the next car in his class. That's Thompson.
Fantastic battling throughout this field. Anywhere inside the top 20 here with the pros of the Pro-Am lineup starting this race. You got some really great drivers here. Cut and thrust racing, keeping it clean so far, which is great news.
Like John Capestre-Dubets took a look to the inside of Borchello. Here's Walker coming under pressure. Fights all throughout this field. Great mix of cars. Such great depth. You look at the pros in these Pro-Am lineups that are starting this race here today. These are big-time names in the world of GT racing here in North America.
Oh, absolutely. Some stunning names. We now head on the Ulman straightaway. It's pretty wide to try and protect there. But you can see Kai Van Berlo making that Porsche pretty wide there in terms of trying to hang on to that 3rd position.
Andy Lee was going on the attack, working on Mackay Stevens.
He's got through.
Lee did get through, and that brings him to the doorstep of the leader in his Pro-Am class.
Yeah, he's been flying, Andy Lee. She's that car with Elias Sabo, showing a lot of pace this year.
And this weekend, Andy Lee and Jason Hart, they were quickest in practice 1, both of them. They were even to the 1,000th of a second.
Well, for Lee and Sabo, if they can have a big weekend, I mean, they're only 35 points out of the lead, so if you can really maximize your point score here this weekend, that could be a huge switch by the time we head to Indianapolis, as Amanda alluded to. When you get to Monday, only 1 event and 2 rounds to go.
And it's a change for the lead in the Pro-Am class. Andy Lee got around Kai Van Berlo. Van Berlo still defending here from Mackay Stevens, who desperately wants to get around and to start to take the fight to the top 2 in his class. Van Berlo, though, not going to go easily or quietly into the night. He fights through the hairpin, and Stevens will have to try again later. Yeah,
and just smart there, Mackay. Try to work the outside, and you recognize your competitor. Kai Van Berlo's an aggressive young driver. I love what he does behind the wheel, but he isn't going to allow you to sit there on his flank and just give you room coming off that corner. You're going to get wiped out or taken through the dust, so Mackay wisely just tucked it back in.
Jason Hart starting to close in on that battle as well. He's worked his way up to the 6th spot overall, 3rd in class. And if he could get around Stevens, then that brings him into the battle for 1st and 2nd in Pro-Am.
The 68 car was through pit lane. That's the Smooth Racing John Jesbray behind the wheel. He and his teammate made their prototype debut just last week at Indy, so it's been a busy time for them.
Understand there was a drive-through penalty for a start violation, so that appears to be what they were serving with that pass through the pits. So look at the battle for 11th. This is for 11th overall.
Aaron Povolato aboard the red and black Schwest Povolato Racing Aston Martin.
This is a team that was right there fighting for the championship before they had a really disastrous Road America weekend.
Yeah, and they showed a lot of pace at the end of last year, then went to work, really tried to work on the consistency of their setup, invested a lot in terms of getting all of the right equipment so they roll the car off the truck in exactly the way they believe it is, which sounds obvious, but sometimes the setups can get a little bit away from you. So they've really worked hard in terms of exactly knowing what they have underneath them. But this is a great little battle. It's not going away. Parker Thompson keeping the heat on Kenton Cook. That's problem yesterday on that 92 machine when the AC was not working in the car. So we got a note from Kevin Bowman, the group there, that cockpit temperatures up around 130 degrees. The AC will keep it down to about 110, but still, even so, pretty toasty conditions. Time you got that no mix race wear on, the underwear, the helmet, really makes it a tough day.
And that's why you put in all the hard work in the off season to make sure the fitness level is ready to go for a day when the AC doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
This is the hours in the gym and on the bike and everything else that you do to be ready where it really pays off. You want to get deep into these stints and not have any physical compromise in terms of your ability to perform behind the wheel of this race car.
This duel continues. I was about to say, as we were watching Cook and Thompson, two great young drivers applying their trade, I think the same can be said for this battle right here with Van Berlo and Mackay Stevens. Mackay maybe a little bit older, actually, but young in terms of racing experience. Had to wait for his opportunity. It came a few years ago with this Conquest Racing team, and his opportunity to go around Van Berlo might have just arrived, with Van Berlo dropping his wheels off the left-hand side.
Yeah, it looked dramatic. I'm not sure if he actually lost anything. I'm sure he just kept his foot planted there, and I'm not sure he really lost a lot of traction or acceleration off the corner, but certainly Mackay has given him hope.
Mackay has an extra reason to want to make this move. John Capestro Dubets has entered the chat. He has run down and is now passing right there Jason Hart. That is for 6th overall, and it brings him to the doorstep.
This is tight for the lead. Really tight there. Parker Thompson tried to squeeze that Toyota there between the lead BMW and the wall, and he's successful by the time they get to Christensen Corner, turn 3.
That is the battle for the overall lead and the lead in the silver class. The Supra that goes to the point they are not in the championship fight, but it can have championship implications either way. That is costing 7 points. That's the difference between first and second to a team that desperately needs as many points as possible here. Talking about this Random Vandals CrowdStrike-sponsored BMW.
Yeah, and even though there's still 5 rounds to go, including this one for for Kenton Cook, you got to really just factor in who you're running against. What is his risk factor? You know, for Parker Thompson, he's just going for a win. You know, he's going to throw all in there.
I think as we look at this car, we can hear from the co-driver. Kevin Bohm is standing by with Amanda down in the pit lane. Let's hear from Kevin Bohm.
And Kevin and I have been standing here watching the battle between 1 and 2. He just saw his teammate lost the position there, but the guys were just talking about risk versus reward. There's still so much time to go here. Get into the mind of Kenton for us. What was he thinking there?
Well, I mean, it's risk versus reward, and then there's also kind of position now versus what the car may feel like later. So it's how much tire do you want to use up now? Ideally, there's a little bit left when I get in the car to be able to battle as well. So I'm sure he's filling it out a little bit and only using as much tire as he needs to. This is a really hot weekend, and it's been hard on tires the whole time we've been here so far. So I think it's not just risk and reward, but also balancing when we use our speed.
As we keep a look at the distance between Parker Thompson and with Kenton, the guys were talking about the excruciating heat you were facing here earlier with no AC, and they talk about the work that goes in outside of the track from being in the gym and training for this. How much of that factors into these weekends?
Well, I mean, it really, you don't prepare for that kind of temperature on purpose, but sometimes you got to have good training, so if you have to, you're ready. So I think that's where some of the training that I've been doing all year to prepare for the physicalness of this car has really paid off, because spending that much time in a car that hot at a track that's this bumpy, it's hard. So Fortunately, I was able to get out, and we had another session that afternoon, and we just kept going. So I think that's where the training really shows itself.
Thank you, Kevin. And guys, there's actually significant cloud coverage down here right now, so that'll help these drivers as well.
Certainly will. Of course, this race a little bit later in the day. Look at that. This car, CrowdStrike car with the CrowdStrike fastest lap, Kenton Cook.
Yeah, massive 0.06 of a second quicker than Parker Thompson. But I think to Kevin's point, I mean, I think for Kenton Cook, he's going to think, okay, how is my teammate's pace in comparison with Hanley, who's going to jump on board the 999 machine? If I can just keep it close, maybe I can let my teammate get us the win here this afternoon.
Yeah, Dan's been impressive, but he is still very new to this. He's been drinking from a fire hose all season long, running not just here, but doing some single-make Porsche racing. Anything to get some seat time. He's been on the fast track, but you're right, in terms of what you would expect at this stage in their relative careers, you would think that Kevin might have the edge. We'll see if that plays out in the second stint. And again, Kevin brought up a great point there. No tire changes during these pit stops, so these tires are an inexhaustible commodity. You use them all up in a battle here in the first stint, you leave your co-driver with nothing to work with in the second stint. Quarter of the way through this race, Parker Thompson leads Kenton Cook rather, then it's Andy Lee. Then we get back to this battle that continues between Kai Van Berlo and Mackay Stevens. John Capestre-Dubets has gotten around Jason Hart. We take a peek here at Terry Borcheller in the Supra, leading Roman DeAngelis in the fight for 8th and 9th in the overall order, with Tyler McQuarrie hovering 10th overall right behind.
That just really showcases how tough the competition in the standard here in this championship, with Roman DeAngelis, who's won numerous titles over the last few years here in North America, sitting there having a strong run, but he's just inside the top 10. So we talked about the stout driver lineups here. That's really a great showcase of that.
Pablo Martinez might have had a problem on that previous lap. Dropped a bunch of positions down to 22nd on timing and scoring. As ever, it's fascinating how these classes overlap, because the only difference is FIA driver grading. All of the cars are the same SRO GT4 homologation. And as Terry Borcheller is showing us, and as he has done all season long, it is proof positive a well-driven car in any of these classes can factor in at the very front.
Absolutely, and they have a wonderful balance of performance system in place to equalize the performance of all of these manufacturers. That's what makes it such a melting pot of teams, cars, driver lineups that can win here every single weekend. It makes it so enticing for everyone to join the party. Clean race so far, not too much argy-bargy, elbows have not been out too much. I think Parker Thompson's move for the lead was probably the closest we got to any real contact in the race so far.
Maybe the message was sent. There are still 2 more races after
that was a
today.
Bold move there into the final corner.
And it left Van Berlo,
excuse me, 16.
vulnerable. Mackay Stevens got around, but that brought John Capestre-Dubets back up and around. 2 changes for position overall, but not in class. JCD, though, now has caught the next car in his class within the silver ranks.
Just really feel like he's got back into his rhythm here. Didn't have the best first couple of laps, but now he's on the march forwards.
You heard his co-driver at the top of the show, Zach Anderson, talking about the initial diagnosis looking like a month and a half to 2 months out of the car, and he worked really hard to cut down the amount of time he would be sidelined to keep himself in the frame for a good points result. Got back in the cockpit in a competitive forum for the first time last weekend. A single-make Lamborghini race. Now back in Pirelli GT4 America here at Sebring.
Yeah, and he had that massive incident with the Lamborghini at Road America. And initially I thought it was the forward impact that he had, but it was actually the compression on his back when he came down and landed, which gave him his issues. But as his teammate Zach Anderson said to Amanda earlier in the show, just amazing how quickly he's recovered, and he feels he's better than ever. So he's got a challenge right now. He needs to somehow get around Mackay Stevens, but more importantly, Mackay Stevens needs to somehow keep JCD behind him, because that's first and second in the championship chase right now. So for Mackay Stevens, they got to eat into that lead. They can't afford to fall further back.
A lot's going to fall on the young shoulders of his teammate Jesse Webb in the second stint to try and make up some of that deficit.
About 5 minutes from the pit window opening, and typically when the pros are starting, you see those go deeper into the race, try and maximize their lap times and skill set to create as big a margin as possible. When you have a silver lineup with Mackay Stevens and Jesse Webb, then they can play with the strategy a little bit. Look at where they may come out. If they can come out in some open air, they have software which will give them that information in terms of making that pit stop with the minimum stop time. Where they come out, who knows? That can play a part in strategy when you have two equal drivers.
40 minutes to go, closing in on that pit window, as Calvin said. Let's go back down to the pits before that pit window and hear from Amanda.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit on that 51 of JCD and Zach Anderson because of that injury and how they're trying to protect JCD through the weekend. Expect that BMW to come in early on the strategy. The team's been really proud of Zach for how he handled everything at Road America, so it'll be business as usual for Zach, but yeah, just limiting JCD's strenuous activity that we'll see here at a bumpy Sebring.
That's a great point. I do wonder if you're coming back from a back injury, if there's a track that is more challenging for something like that than this one here at Sebring.
That's a great point. I mean, I've heard drivers say, well, when you're coming down the straightaways, it's like you're in a paint shaker, and then when you get to turn 17, it's like you suddenly got thrown on one of those mechanical riding bulls, and you're just trying to hang on. So when you got a back injury, probably not the most comfortable place, but I'm sure he's padded up and trying to make it as comfortable as he can.
20 minutes into this race, interesting up on our timing and scoring to see drivers setting their best laps of the race this deep into the run. Parker Thompson just reset his best lap a few laps ago, and that is the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race. Meanwhile, Eric Powell has gone for a big slide through the hairpin.
Yeah, and he's pretty bullish about his potential here today. That Nissan seems to be coming on strong as the season progresses, so see how this one develops. Oh, just loses the rear end on the brake zone.
So, yeah, I had a conversation with him earlier in the day, and he was pretty candid talking about a mistake that he made in qualifying at Road America that he felt really cost them a chance at a good result there.
That was sudden, though. It was almost like he lost a little bit of front brake and had all rears. It's almost like doing an e-brake turn coming into the corner there. So with Eric's abilities, he wouldn't make such a massive, you'd have a little slide, but that was pretty dramatic. I'd have to feel there was maybe something technical going on.
That's a change of position there. John Capestro-Dubets has gone around Mackay Stevens. That is for 4th overall, but for 3rd, the final step of the podium within the silver class.
Yeah, and significant in the championship as well. That's going to give them a couple more points versus losing a couple. John Miller just given some instructions here.
That's Chris Allen he's talking to, who shares an M-Class car for STR38. That's the team John is the team manager for.
So when the nose is up in the air, that's understeer. It's like a powerboat, you know what I mean? So when you hit the gas pedal, that's what it's going to do. Good little team. They've really done a lot of great things over the last year or so in terms of really boosting their customer racing program there with STR.
Yes. It's an associated team, I guess it's safe to say, with Samantha Tan Racing. But they run it as a slightly different business. There's Ross Schwest getting ready for his stint. Aaron Povolato has their car up in 12th overall at the moment.
He's got a busy weekend. He's going to be doing 5 races,
yeah.
Right? He's got double duty, running very much in the championship picture in GT America. Jason Bell has that lead, but by a tiny margin, so it's going to be a fun championship to watch. Those two guys, and Rob Holland is the threat to maybe give both of those drivers a hard time for the championship title.
And a moment ago, we saw Elias Sabo, who is getting ready to take over this machine, which is the leader in Pro-Am. Just 35 points out of the lead. 3rd in the Pro-Am points coming into the weekend. But right now, leading their class, this could be a really big result. They are not out of it.
No, it's been a great race. I thought Thompson might have the pace in that Toyota Supra to take it to Kendon. It took him a while, but now he's really displayed that pace. Fastest lap by about half a second over the rest of the field. Amanda?
Well, I do have a live look on Elias Sabo right now, and I was talking to him prior to the race. Last year here at Sebring, he actually picked up his first ever win in GT America, and he's been leveraging that series this year to really help in this Pro-Am battle alongside Andy Lee. But I was talking to his team prior today, and they said, yeah, Elias is just feeling himself this weekend. So when I asked Elias about that, he was like, hey, I'm back in Sebring. This is the place of my first win, and we have all seen Elias Sabo when he wins a race, so we know the energy that that man's carrying.
Saw it in Road America. We had a chance to share with the family. Special moment. Pit window, by the way, will be open the next time around for the leaders. Curious to see who elects to take it and who elects to run long. Stevens was passed by John Capestre-Dubets, but has been able to stay in the tire tracks. I think you might be onto something, though. That is one of the teams that might roll the dice and make an early pit call. We expect the Auto Technic BMW in, as Amanda reported.
Yeah, particularly if you've got any imbalance. There's not a lot you can do, right? You can't change tires or anything, but if you need a quick tire pressure adjustment and say he's been driving through a condition, whether it's understeer or oversteered, correct that early. Don't keep driving through it and making that tire wear get away from you. Maybe correct that knowing that your teammate at a similar pace and can go out there and get back up on the wheel.
Like a little battle breaking out at the back of the top 10 with Roman DeAngelis coming under attack from Tyler McQuarrie. Right here, Heart of Racing Aston up against this BMW from Bimmer World.
Yeah, and I think it's been a great match. Tyler McQuarrie teaming up with James Walker Jr. I think James is in a really happy place. They're really starting to get the true results, as we mentioned. They've won 3 of the last 4 races and has given them that championship lead. Big off and on there through Tower for Terry Borscheller. He's just having fun.
He probably has more laps around this place than anybody in the field, right?
Yeah. Ton of time. I mean, Terry has done the 12-hour race here for decades, so yeah, he'll have a lot of experience. Let's see how this one develops here. Just gets a little bit wide once you get on the backside of that curbing. He does the right thing, just kind of straightens out. If you try and pull it off, it's really just get hooked around, because particularly as we get deeper into the weekend and more people drop wheels there, it gets a little bit rutted. And then if you're trying to pull it on, the curbing actually just catches you and trips you up.
DeAngelis looked to the inside of Borscheller, got his nose chopped off a little bit. Does that bring the BMW into play here? We do have a call. That's Stevens, yes. Interesting that Auto Technic has kept JCD out there.
Yeah, let's see if they do a tire pressure change. Sometimes they'll just put the gauge on just to check everything's good, but wonder if they're going to try and bleed some pressure out of one end of the car or the other, try and give it a little bit better balance for Jesse to jump on board.
Back at the front, Parker Thompson's lead has grown now to over 4 seconds over Kenton Cook. Then it's Andy Lee lurking back there, 3rd overall, but continuing to show the way in Pro-Am. Driver change underway here from Rooster Hall. Colin Garrett and Johann Schwartz, the driving pairing here.
Garrett did the opening stint, so Schwartz now behind the wheel. Everyone needs to be suited and booted, ready to go, just in case there's a sudden call, but dominoes will start to fall. As we said, a lot of the Pro-Am combinations will keep that Pro in deeper into this 10-minute window. We've got 7 minutes left. Don't have to have the service done and completed. Just be on pit lane by the time that window runs out, which is at 25 minutes to go in the race.
Fight for position. How about Brian Heitcotter? He's been quick all weekend for Tech Sport. Great to see this Nissan showing a little bit of pace here this weekend.
Yeah, beautiful race cars. A lot of effort there to develop a car during the racing season.
Brand new Nissan Z GT4. Brian Heitcotter has that car up to 11th. Here's Parker Thompson, who has that CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race at 2:11.5. I don't see anyone else that's turned at 2:11.
No, so he looks like he's half a second clear of the field, and got the hammer down, and he too is trying to build his bigger window, or gap should I say, between he and the rest of the runners here before he turns the reins over to his teammate.
Kevin Cook fighting on as best as he can, but He's been dropping a few tenths a lap to the leader each of the last several laps. Here comes JCD. We'll make that change over to Zach Anderson right before the halfway mark.
And again, two really quick drivers in that pairing, so it allows you to play with the strategy a little bit.
Pit exit here too. It drops you right into the middle of turn one, which is challenging enough to begin with.
It really is. I mean, it looks, you know, innocent enough, but it's really a pinching point right as the cars get right to the exit point. If someone's accelerating off, so they've made this turn right in front of us on the screen, and they're accelerating sort of parallel to the bottom of our screen. They just kind of meet as cars are coming through the exit of that corner.
There's the driver change underway. Quick check of the tire pressures. To Calvin's point, you can bleed some air pressure to help with the handling, but mostly it's about getting the driver situated and ready to go.
So there's Jesse Webb, I believe, so you can see the clean air, so that may have been a factor too in terms of making that decision. If we pit him now, where will he come out? You don't want to do that in terms of, okay, well, adjust the tire pressure to get the balance better, but then put him out in the middle of a bunch of traffic. So they've got good clean air. Now it's like go time. It's hammer time for Jesse Webb here to really kind of do the undercut, as we call it, and just get some really clean laps here versus his competitors maybe getting a little bit balked in traffic or not having a good outlap.
Does look like maybe he might be catching some traffic here in turn one. This could be interesting. Young Canadian, a lot on his shoulders here to try and make the undercut work, and he's got Anderson fresh out of the pits right in front of him. That would be a class position.
Yeah, that's the championship battle right there.
Yep. Autotechnic came in ahead, and they leave ahead. So they hold station. Pretty good execution, it would appear, in the pit lane by both squads.
Yeah, it's now down to Zach Anderson, and he's got enough experience to get up on the wheel early. Some drivers take a little bit longer to get into a rhythm and really achieve their ultimate lap time, but Zach's certainly got the experience and knowledge. And the other great thing is you've still got tire temperature, right? Car was stationary for a little bit, but it's still got good tire temperature, and you should be able to resume and assume the performance that your teammate had.
Pit lane getting even busier now, with many of the front runners making a call. There comes Highcotter in from the 10th spot. Really great job by the Tech Sport team. Kevin Bohm, Kenton Cook pitting from the 2nd position. They'll make that change now. Parker Thompson continues to lead. He is going to stay out as long as possible.
Minimum stop time today is 84 seconds.
What a season, though, it's been for that Random Vandals pairing. Kenton Cook, a known commodity, running a GT4 car. Kevin Bohm, a champion in touring cars, but making that step into rear-wheel drive cars, into GT4 racing for the first time. It seemed like there were a few weekends where he was feeling it out, but as the season hit the halfway mark, he's been on the pace.
Yeah, very much so, and great work the Random Vandals team are doing. They're really building a great operation there under the direction and ownership of Paul Sparta, who's in this race as well with Al-Qaeda in the sister machine. So he's making the investment to do great things and get good people on board.
That was Bohm out of the pits, well ahead of these cars that are chasing. These are the rest of the silver class runners, barring Thompson, who still owes a pit stop. Boy, Anderson is pushing, dropping a wheel at the exit of one.
Yeah, this could be a fun little battle here, because Jesse Webb looks like he's closed in a little bit. Yeah, there was going to be that little transition period where Jesse had one more lap underneath him. Not so much from a tire factor, but more from just a pure driver performance factor, being into a rhythm one lap to the good.
No time to come around.
There. You got to be careful with
Yes.
that. I mean, there's no tire change there, so you want to come in, but don't want to be flat spotting tires. You talk about saving tires for your teammate. The last thing he needs to have is thrifty bits to work with when he goes back out of the pits.
Thompson pushed this as deep into the stint as he could. No way to make it around one more time and still be in before the window closes. So now Dan Hanley, based out of Colorado, will take over for Parker Thompson. Beautiful looking livery on this Supra, throwback to the Toyota All-American
Eagles.
Racer days. Yeah.
And Gurney squad. So
Correct.
I love it. Parker Thompson, such an impressive young man. He's total pro. Even at his young age, he's really demonstrating he's got all of the attributes, and most importantly, the approach, the dedication, and the what he's bringing to the table outside of the race car as well.
There was a time I thought he was going to be Canada's next IndyCar star and just didn't have the right opportunities to keep chasing up the open wheel ladder. And Toyota/Lexus have brought him into the fold. And they know what they've got in Parker Thompson. Expect to see a lot more of him.
Yeah, I think you'll be hearing some big news about him shortly.
Changeover complete for Flying Lizard. Elias Sabo replaces Andy Lee. That's the orange car coming out of the pit lane now. Oh man, great job by Thompson to build that lead for Dan Hanley ahead of Bohm, who comes through the picture there. This is the leader in Pro-Am. Looks like he should have the lead handily to let things sort out, but see how Sabo deals with these two that are fighting for second and third in silver, and they are coming quickly.
Yeah. Jesse Webb is getting really close to the tail here of Zach Anderson. So again, the 34 machine, the Conquest Racing entry, that red and white Mercedes, has to do everything in their power to somehow get around that BMW right in front of them, as Elias Sabo is just getting up to speed. They have a run on him.
And Jesse can't afford to get separated from that BMW, but that's exactly what happens. Anderson able to slice to the inside. Jesse Webb forces the issue. Might have dropped a couple of wheels there.
Had to go for it.
He did.
Looks like a bit of door trim that's come loose there on Sabo's car. Oh. He's got his elbows out.
Not for class position.
Yeah, no, that's where he needs a little chat from the radio. Just calm down, Elias. You know, those guys were in a battle. It's a championship battle. He may have felt that, you know, Jesse put the car in a place that he shouldn't have put it. So, you know, Elias, he's feisty.
Oh, yeah.
I assume that's door trim hanging out, and it's not something else, but shouldn't be affecting the car's performance, I wouldn't believe.
But after that, now the top 4 overall are all out of the silver class. Then you get to Sabo, the Pro-Am leader, Kurt Swearingen taking over for Kai Van Berlo. That ACI team showing good pace here this weekend. Swearingen runs second, but keep an eye on that car in third in Pro-Am, 7th overall. That's Matt Travis, who takes over for Jason Hart, and Matt has been quick.
Paul Sparta now aboard the 92 Random Vandals machine.
Fighting with Harry Gottsacker here. So Sparta currently 2nd in AM. Gottsacker is 5th in silver and has some work to do. I believe that car had to start at the back because it was a different driver lineup here this weekend than was originally entered at NOLA. They've had a couple different drivers alongside Chandler Hull this year.
Yep. That's right. So if you weren't entered at NOLA, or even if you're here competing at Sebring this weekend, you were not allowed to be part of the field here today. And if you change your driver lineup, that would put you to the back of the field. So a lot of work to do, but I think everyone understands the situation. There was no way of squeezing in that second race on the NOLA schedule with that lightning that we had on Saturday there.
A moment ago, we got a look at Nick Shanny, who has inherited the AM class lead after a great opening stint from Terry Borcheller, but Paul Sparta, who we saw a few moments ago, is giving chase. Roland Krine's doing a really nice job as well. He and his son, Austin, they run 15th overall, not too far behind Paul Sparta for 2nd in that class.
Sabo there looks like a little bit of understeer going through turn 7. Struggling to get the car turned. Some of that can just be how you release the brakes coming off the corner and things like that. There's so much that the driver can help in terms of how the nose of the car is changed through the apex phase of a corner, how quickly you go back to power, how quickly you release the brakes.
Seldorf and Shanny.
It's going to be the battle to watch. See what Nick Shanny, he's come on leaps and bounds over this last season in terms of gaining confidence, gaining speed. He's now got the lead. He's been in this position before. He's got Paul Sparta, and you mentioned Roland Crane's having a nice stay here as well, but there are a few cars back. So he's got a bit of a buffer here.
He does. It has been a really good year, though, for Shanny. Same team, same driver lineup as last year when they finished 5th in points. Ended up 152 behind the Ultimate Champions in the AM class. This year, though, they come in 3rd in points. Only 99 out with 5 to go.
Yeah, and I think that'll be their goal, is to hang on to that 3rd. They don't really have a shot at the top 2, but right now he has an 8-second lead. Looking at timing and scoring and working it out from Paul Sparta. So he's got to manage that, and that's going to be the key. Looking at his lap times, the team will be able to analyze at the pace that he runs, that Paul Sparta has, if he has enough of a gap, or whether he's got to find a bit more pace to hang on to.
He may end up with the battle for the lead overall here, because Kevin Boehm has been chopping away at Dan Hanley's lead. He was 0.5 of a second quicker the last time by. Still, though, has 6.7 seconds to overcome and 20 minutes to do it. There goes Boehm through the picture. Then we drop back here for the final step of the podium in silver. Zach Anderson has the spot, and Jesse Webb, he's been on the charge ever since he jumped into that car, still running in 4th.
Yeah, last lap, Jesse Webb was the fastest of the top 4 runners, as you mentioned, all in that silver class. So enough time on the board. See if they can chase down the leaders.
We've been telling the story all throughout the show. It's Zach Anderson in the car now, but JCD is with Amanda.
Well, Zach Anderson keeps working on Kevin Boehm. I want to go back to just your stint here. Great to see you. How are you just experiencing Sebring here this weekend with your injury?
Man, I just can't put it into words how excited I am to be back and to be thrown into the mix with such great drivers. I can't tell you how fun that stint was. Got shuffled back there in the beginning. It was very spicy on the start. I knew I had to keep that car clean. We're in a championship hunt. Sacrificed a few spots to keep it clean. Once the packs kind of settled down a little bit, we put our head down, made our way back forward, had some awesome battles. I wanted to, give my hat off to Roman DeAngelis. I mean, awesome driver. Doesn't look like they had the car today in a straight line, but man, just so much respect. And the moves he pulled out there were just, I can't even say how cool they looked from inside the car. But yeah, running with my friend Mackay, I know he's in the fight with us. Kenton and the Hanley car got out front. Looks like they had a pretty good battle. Now it's up to Zach Boehm and Hanley, and I think also Webb's in the fight. So Webb's been showing some really good pace here, and I wouldn't count him out either. He's right there on our doorstep. So
There was someone that came over and gave you a fist bump after that stint. Who was that?
Yeah, that's actually Jason Hart. Jason and I go way back. I remember when I was a young gun going up to him and saying, how can I eventually get paid at this? Him looking at me and laughing and saying it's going to be a long road. Here we are, almost 13 years later, and we're going door to door, still same level of respect, and that's what it's all about, to leave the lanes, make it a good show for the fans, and have that camaraderie in the paddock. I think that just makes it extra special.
Zach Anderson picking up another 6/10 on that lap to Kevin Boehm. I did talk to Zach to JCD about their pit strategy. What they wanted to do was to stay out one lap past Mackay Stevens, and it looks like it worked.
To hear that level of respect for your competitors, that's really special. That's very cool to hear.
Yeah, JCD's one of the good guys, and we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years, and he's finally getting his dues. I mean, he's getting the profile now where he's getting these big victories and leading championships and things like that. So, been knocking on the door for a long time, as he said. Not an overnight sensation. It's been a 13-year journey to get to this point, but great respect for his competitors, and there's some classy drivers out there, some really fast guys. So it's fun for these guys to be competing against drivers who have had success at levels even above this, to go door to door with them and recognize that I can compete at their level, and I've seen what they've done in other championships, and it gives you a lot of motivation.
That has to be one of the draws of coming to race here, because you have a chance to test yourself head-to-head with drivers that have some name recognition, have glittering CVs, and then you can show potential employers, look, this is what I'm capable of against people you know.
Exactly. And people, the sport is so data-driven now. I mean, and that's how you can analyze. Well, if you can do that against him, I know what he can do over here. So we'll put you in the same lane, so to speak.
Couple of penalties have been issued after the pit window. There will be a minor time penalty under 2.5 seconds handed to the Colin Garrett Johan Schwartz car for a short pit stop. Bigger issue for Rihanna O'Meara Hunt and Hannah Grisham for the Heart of Racing Aston Martin team. They've been assessed a drive-through for a pit stop violation. As we take a look at our race vision powered by AWS. Fastest laps. That would be from our Fanatec GT practice. Whoa!
That was wild. That's going to get his attention. That's a little bit out of sync there. It's such a rhythm part of the racetrack. And, you know, he's going to recognize that Kevin Bohm, the rest of this pack is cutting into a little bit. Let's see how this developed here.
You know, it's interesting.
That's turn 3, that's turn 4, and he just carries too much speed through 3, gets up on that curb, and then it gets him all out of sync here. You're out in the marbles a little bit, but nice recovery. Recognized it, kept it together. Just keep moving forwards, and time is not exactly on his side. There's still a quarter of this race still to run here, and for Kevin Bohm, it's interesting. The driver who's in second place right now, he's catching Hanley, but he's also got Anderson and Webb catching him. So there's a question of what happens first before this checkered flag here this afternoon.
Hanley had been matching Bohm a couple of laps ago for race pace, but now that has swung back to Kevin. But you're right, I think actually the fight that might be breaking out even sooner is Anderson, who is making some serious headway despite the fact that he is coming under some extreme pressure of his own.
Yeah, if I'm Kevin Bohm's team, I'm thinking, are we going to win this race or are we going to finish 4th? Or somewhere in between, because anything can happen. And it's going to be fascinating here as the laps run down and if everyone maintains the same delta in pace that we're currently seeing.
Well, and all 3 of those cars, Bohm, Anderson, and Webb, they are in the fight for the championship in the silver class. Hanley is the outlier. They are not in the mix. They're just going trophy hunting at this stage in the season.
Yeah, and they're in the prime position to do that. So young Dan Hanley has done an excellent job, set up by Parker Thompson.
Under 15 minutes to go. Let's take a look at how this has developed between Hanley and Bohm and where the inroads have been made over the last 3 laps. And yeah, you can see Kevin making some serious progress. Dropped off another 4/10 on the last lap as well to get it down to 5.3.
Anderson took almost 4/10 out of that gap as well. So you can see that second of the BMWs in the frame there is catching, and Jesse Webb's coming with him as well. This has potential to have some fireworks at the end of this race.
Bohm really needs to stay ahead of these 2 from a championship perspective. That is imperative for Kevin. This is a look at that gap as Bohm back to Anderson has been steadily eroding.
Yeah. That lap, 19 lap 20, tells the story. It's a consistent 3/10. I'm not sure if Kevin had a bit of a moment on the lap before that or not, but I think that's the margin. And right now that gap is what, 2.5 seconds. So 3/10, you need 8 laps. It's going to be tight. I mean, if they maintain that pace, it could be some last lap drama here.
Kevin's biggest ally could be Jesse Webb. If Jesse Webb is able to get a run and maybe take it side by side for a corner or 2 with Anderson, then the equation changes again.
Maybe Jesse Webb is thinking big picture, like, I don't want to fight too hard. Let's just both move forward and see if we can catch at least the second place runner, then go on the attack versus dicing with each other and just giving Bohm more of a cushion.
Dropping back to take a peek in at some Pro-Am battles. Looks like Ray Newell just dropped a spot to James Walker Jr. That is for the 9th position overall, 4th in the Pro-Am class.
Yeah, and that's significant, right, for James Walker Jr., our championship leader.
Yeah, it is. Matt Travis, who is chasing him in the points, runs 2nd in that class. Still finds himself about 6.5 seconds behind Elias Sabo, but did pass Kurt Swearingen for that 2nd spot a few laps back.
Yeah, and I think that's like a 6-point swing, a 20-point lead. So that's a nice little chunk if Travis can take that out of them on the first day of this 3-day race weekend.
This would be a 2nd series championship for Matt Travis if he were able to get it done. In a few years prior to that, finished 2nd back-to-back seasons. Racking up the wins here in Pirelli GT4 America over the last half-decade or so. Had a hiatus from the championship last year. Talked to Matt, said we might not see him for a full season next year, which would be a shame. He brings a lot of spice to the paddock. Fight here as Ross Schwest is going side by side with Nick Shanny. This is for the 13th spot overall.
Look for that next car, though. That's Charlie Postins. He's been on the move. He's gotten around Paul Sparta up to second in the AM class, and he can now see the AM leader, Nick Shanny, just up ahead.
Yeah.
What a season they've put together. He and James Clay looking for another championship. 6 wins on the season, 5 on the bounce. This would be 6 in a row, potentially.
And it would be back-to-back titles if they were able to clinch, and they could. They could even clinch before we get to Sunday.
Sparta's right there, that green and white machine. That's the 3rd position in the AM class. So here's the leader, the white and red Toyota.
Oh.
There's Postins there. He's got to be patient here. There's a little bit of time, but Paul Sparta's keeping the pressure on as well, not letting him get away.
Schwest in the Pro-Am class car, mixed up in this battle for the podium positions within the AM class. Shanny leads, Poston second is the 3rd car in line, and then it's Sparta in the green BMW at the back of this train.
But look at the job that Nick Shanny's doing. I mean, he has nowhere near the race knowledge and experience of the drivers that he's around here, and this is just under the tutelage of Terry Borchell. And as Terry said, Nick has zero, as in zero, sports experience at anything, stick and ball, you know, whatever. I mean, this is his first time getting into sports, and to come so far so quickly is incredible.
And has been fun to watch his ascent through the ranks.
He should be proud whatever position he ends up on. Still hangs on to the lead. You know that Charlie Postins is thinking, I'm going to grab another win here, but
time starting to run out, though, and with that, the intensity level starts to ramp up here. Inside of 10 minutes to go, Schwest would love nothing more than to get out of this fight. This is not his fight. Around the outside goes Postins. That is a high commitment move through Sunset Bend, and it looks like he's going to get the move made. And now Nick Shanny is going to have to get very defensive because the fight for the lead in the AM class is on. Here comes Postins. He'll take a look to the inside into turn 1. Shanny relents, and Postins, looking for a 6th straight win, goes to the point.
Beautiful piece of driving there by Charlie. Just made that move around the outside in turn 17. He's a brave boy to try that one. Pulled it off and immediately got back up on the wheel to make the move for the lead down into turn 1.
This is a fight here. Further back, Johann Schwartz fighting with Chris Allen. 18th and 19th overall, not for class position. Gerasi also in the mix here, not for class position either. But you wouldn't know it. Watching them fight, you would think this might be for the race win, but that's not the case. As Schwest again tries to get around Shanny, not able to do it, and that leaves him vulnerable to Sparta.
Sparta's right there. He'd like to clear Schwest and try and go on the attack on Shanny. Move up to that 2nd position on the podium. He's got a podium run going here. Alcada did a nice job in the opening stint, running in 2nd. Sparta's been doing an awesome job. That's a late move down the inside with the 18 machine. Roland Kreintz, he's in that AM class as well.
Yeah. Currently just off the podium within the class. Whoa! Big slide from Gerasi there. He's looking up the inside of Schwest. Has to back out, and here comes the STR38 car. Wow.
That was a wild move by Gerasi. I thought if he could pull that one off, that'll be one for the highlight reel, but couldn't quite clear him. Had to tuck it back in. Nice bit of driving, just really heads up in terms of recognizing that it was going to get really tight to get through that corner and coexist.
Postins.
He's gone.
Checked out.
Sparta's got a big run on Shanny here.
This is for 2nd. 2nd and 3rd cars in line, fighting for 2nd within the AM class. Paul Sparta up the inside, fighting with Nick Shanny. They go door to door through Sunset Bend, over the bumps of turn 17, and put the Random Vandals car up to P2.
Oh, and Shanny's got to keep on it. He's done such a great job. I mean, reward would be at least a podium, but now he's got Kreintz right there.
Here he comes in the Cayman. This is for class position, and he does make that pass stick. It comes at you fast in Pirelli GT4 America.
It does. It's an emotional roller coaster when you think you're on the verge of a win, and then before you know it, just because of the level of competition in this championship, you're suddenly outside of that podium spot.
Next in line to take a crack at Shanny would be Gerasi, at least for class position, but he's got to get around Schwest first. Ross just hasn't been able to settle into any kind of rhythm because he's been stuck in the middle of this AM class battle.
Really nice job by Paul Sparta here, but he's got his work cut out. Looks like Prince has
really
gone
late. Oh, that sends Schwest around. That's a dangerous spot on the track. Ugh, that's frustrating for Ross. They have not had the luck over the last few rounds.
It doesn't look like there's too much damage, but saw Gerasi, let's have another look at it here. Just comes in a little bit late. I mean, there wasn't a lot of room there either. He's probably over the inside curve there to try and avoid contact, but ultimately couldn't.
They came really close together on the previous lap as well.
Yeah, we're in 13.
And Ross Schwest able to continue on, but very much delayed. That's going to be a tough pill to swallow again for that team. That's potentially 3 consecutive results that aren't what they were looking for dating back to Road America. Let's look at our gaps at the front with just over 5 minutes remaining, and Dan Hanley continues to show the way, but Kevin Boehm is starting to reel him in, chopped off nearly a second on the last lap, but he's got his hands full. Here comes Anderson, and Webb is not too far behind. The top 4, all in the same camera shot.
Yeah, and Anderson again on that last lap. I wasn't analyzing lap times for the last 2 or 3 laps, but it was still that 0.3 of a second margin, and he's a second back, so we need 3 laps. That's about what we got left to go here, and he's right there. He can feel the exhaust fumes off that Kevin Boehm random Vandals machine right in front of him. For Dan Hanley, maybe this is the break he's looking for, because if Boehm has to get defensive, that may give Hanley enough of a margin, because all of these cars are catching our leader right now. Last lap, Kevin Boehm was 9/10 faster than Dan Hanley.
Yeah, but he had that little slip, and now he's got to play defense for the first time during his stint.
Great stuff here, Zach Anderson. What a performance. Has the championship lead solo, with JCD having to miss the races at Road America, as we're documented here today, but nonetheless, been a fantastic championship season. So much quality in this field. Need to work together if they're going to chase down that Toyota, but you know, everyone's out for themselves right now, wants those vital points.
Well, Zach and JCD, they have not been shy. They thought when they put this lineup together that they would be able to go for a championship. That's the way it's happened so far. They've got themselves on the precipice, but they've done it on a shoestring budget. If something were to go wrong in a big way, that could totally sidetrack their season. They've been able to avoid calamity to this point in the season, and at least for Zach Anderson, with 5 races to go, including this one, he could be looking at a title. A pass here would help.
It would, but at the same time, if he takes too much risk, look who's going to pick up the pieces, Jesse Webb, and that's who they're fighting in the championship. Admittedly, Bowman Cook aren't out of this, but the real title contenders are Zach Anderson and the 34 driver pairing.
Yeah, and for Bowman Cook, as we've said a couple of times, they must finish ahead of these two.
That last lap for Kevin Boehm was actually a 10th slower than our leader, so the gap has been extended ever slightly, but it's just the attention that Kevin Boehm's come from Zach Anderson. Hanley may have this one, and Zach Anderson may be the biggest helper to make that happen.
Well, Hanley's done a really solid job in this stint. Parker Thompson ran deep in that opening stint to build the gap. There's Parker right there. Set the crowd strike fastest lap of the race early, built the margin. But ultimately, it comes down to Dan Hanley, much less experienced than anyone he's racing with right here, except for maybe Jesse Webb. But he's done a tremendous job.
He has. Essentially, he's going to have basically a lap and a half to go here. He should get white flag next time across the stripe, and doesn't have that pressure. And I think Boehm was going to be closer if he hadn't caught the attention of Zach Anderson. Just those vital couple of laps ago, and looks like Boehm's car struggling a little bit for grip. He's fighting the car a little bit. Doesn't seem to be cutting the corners just as effectively as it was earlier in his stint. This allows him Jesse Webb to catch both of the BMWs again.
Jesse would love to get there and at least take a crack at it. Here's your fight for the lead in Pro-Am. Elias Sabo has it. Matt Travis is starting to reel him in, though.
Yeah.
2.5 seconds. Not sure there's going to be enough time, but Travis is charging.
It's going to be close. I mean, Travis was 1.3 seconds faster the last lap. Yeah,
Yep.
1.3 seconds faster. He's 2.3 behind across the stripe. It's closer now, so it's going to be really tight.
Expect to see the white flag this time out of Sunset Bend. The fight for second is heating up. Here comes Zach Anderson. He has arrived at the back door of second place in the silver class. Kevin Boehm as the white flag waves. 1 lap to go at Sebring International Raceway.
See if Boehm can keep, oh, car off.
That's Gerazzi off.
That's turn 13.
For now, we stay green, just a local yellow covering the incident. Boehm has to play defense here. Can he hang on for 1 more lap? Can Jesse Webb enter the equation? Can Dan Hanley hang on and pick up an overall race win? So much at stake on the final lap of the first of 3 races here this weekend at Sebring. Boehm goes on the defense, covers off the inside, drifts back out to the outside for a better line through the hairpin. For now, he's fighting that rear guard action and keeping Zach Anderson at bay.
Let's not forget Jesse Webb here. He has to somehow do something to get by that 51. He cannot afford that car to extend the lead. So it's a double point swing in terms of losing 2 points and gaining 2 points. There's a 4-point swing right there, 3rd to 4th.
Final time through this technical section of the racetrack. Dan Hanley leads. Anderson putting the pressure on Boehm, but here comes Jesse Webb. This is as close as he's been. Gerazzi starting to limp away from the incident scene. That's good news. We stay green flag. But the fight for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th overall and within the silver class still very much up for grabs. 1 final run down the Ullman Straight coming up and into turn 17.
Kevin Boehm's done a brilliant job here. I think the handling on his car is not exactly in its sweet spot for these last few laps here, but he's hung on, dug deep, and he's maintained that 2nd position.
The top 4 all covered by less than 2 seconds here on the final lap. Hanley Motorsports, Parker Thompson and Dan Hanley have the lead through the final turn for the final time. Kevin Boehm trying to fend off a charge from Zach Anderson and Jesse Webb.
Anderson to the inside, they touch. Webb could take advantage as well.
Anderson is through, Webb is through. Hanley and Thompson win, but 2nd place to Zach Anderson and Auto Technic. At the line, Kevin Boehm holds off Jesse Webb by 8 thousandths of a second for the final step of the podium. In Pro-Am, the charge for Matt Travis comes up 1 lap short. Elias Sabo out of Sunset Bend takes the checkered flag in the race win, ahead of the NOLA Sport pairing of Travis and Hart. Then in the AM class, for the 6th consecutive time. Now actually, first we look here in Pro-Am. This is James Walker Jr. coming out of the final corner to take the checkered flag. He's able to hold off Kurt Swearingen, but we find the team car, the 36 that leads the championship in the AM class for the 7th time this season and the 6th on the bounce. Charlie Postins and James Clay are race winners in Pirelli GT4 America. 2nd place appears to be headed to RS1, Roland and Austin Klein. Great result for the dad and lad pairing. You can see what it means to them. 3rd place in the AM class to Paul Sparta, Al Carter, and Random Vandals Racing.
That was an awesome race.
Yeah. Green
It's amazing, right?
to checkered.
Green flag racing is more fun.
Cosine. What a great final stint from Dan Hanley.
Yeah.
Parker Thompson set the table, no doubt about it, with the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race and built the margin, but Hanley did exactly what he needed to do and no more.
Yeah, and it's, you know, you're getting into territory that you're not really comfortable with, but the more you do it, you're going to get more comfortable, and that was a great run by Dan to hang on to the win. Was feeling the pressure was coming, but I think that little battle with Anderson getting to Boehm kind of thwarted the challenge of the BMWs a little bit.
What a huge result for the championship, and this is how it played out. Hanley well ahead, but look at that. Anderson shoved it up the inside, maybe a little door-to-door contact. It cost Boehm the momentum, but luckily for Kevin, he was able to hang on against the hard-charging Jesse Webb and at least take home 3rd. but what a swing in the points that was in the final turn of the final lap.
That was huge. Huge for the championship. Great day for Zach Anderson once again, our championship leader. As we said, Hanley and Thompson, they're not really in the championship picture. So for Anderson, he basically beats all of his nearest contenders. So he'll boost his points lead. And I'm not sure if they touched or not. I'm not sure if Kevin just saw him there and just stared at the situation a little bit.
I see a donut on the door.
Yeah.
Don't know if that was from that incident or something else, but hey, it's the last lap with so much on the line. It might not have been for the win, but I bet it feels like one.
For sure. It really does. Big picture-wise, it was a win.
Yep. Wow. Great stuff. And best news of all, we get to do it 2 more times this weekend.
Maybe that's what's kept these guys on their best behavior, right, girls? Because not only is not this thinking about tomorrow's race, it's like tomorrow's race and the next day's race. So got to keep it clean.
How about it for Elias Sabo and Andy Lee? Elias, we talked some about Nick Shanny earlier and how he's progressed leaps and bounds. In many ways, he is following the trajectory that drivers like Elias Sabo showed were possible, where we see these leaps in performance year on year. Oh, that's cool. You could see the smile under the helmet. Dan Hanley with 2 thumbs up. And we'll be hearing from him in Sebring Victory Lane here shortly. Let's look at our provisional race results from the first of 3 races this weekend. It's a makeup race, of course, from race 2 at NOLA Motorsports Park earlier in the season. Your winning pairing, Dan Hanley, Parker Thompson, winning overall and in silver ahead of Auto Technic and Random Vandals. Win in the Pro-Am class to Flying Lizards, Andy Lee and Elias Sabo. NOLA Sports, Matt Travis and Jason Hart, they were close. That's going to be a duo to watch this weekend. James Walker Jr., Tyler McQuarrie, another solid podium result for them in the 8th spot overall, 3rd in class. And then in AM, James Clay, Charlie Postins, they win again for the 7th time. But Austin and Roland Crines had a great day for the hometown RS1 team. Paul Sparta, Al Carter make it a double podium day for Random Vandals in a pair of different classes. So we saw the celebration up on the roof of the race car. Let's go down and hear from our race winners with Amanda.
Oh, and now some of the team starts to show up to congratulate Daniel Hanley. And I've always wondered that feeling of standing on the race car. I imagine it's pretty exhilarating, but I was standing by Parker Thompson and he was talking with you through that last couple of laps, knowing that the other guys are coming after you. Talk about the relationship between you two.
Oh my God, it's been incredible from the start. I mean, I first met Parker. I was working as a mechanic for his Porsche team at JDX. And so that was our first introduction. And before I knew it, we blossomed and had a fantastic relationship, and he's been there for the start for me. So he was there for my first Spec Miata race when I got in the car for the first time last year, and he's been here ever since. So I'm incredibly grateful to have him as a coach, a mentor, a friend, and truly I view him as a brother. So I'm just incredibly grateful for him.
Parker, go ahead and get over in here. I saw you running. It ended up being 1.3 seconds. They're fine there at the end, and I know you were talking him through that at the end. I saw your fingers tapping and everything, but this was a complete race from start to finish, and it started with you. Talk about the stint and the talent of drivers you were surrounded by.
Well, all the guys that you see up at the front are up at the front in any series in the world. So Kenton and I are no strangers to racing. Van Berlo and I have been seeing a lot of each other the last couple years, probably too much of each other, but it was good to get around it. The Toyota GR Supra was just so good at Sebring. We did an awesome job. Chris Bowman is new to us in 3 races. He has set this car up like a rocket ship. Great on the short run, great on the long run. Ryan Heller, our crew chief mechanics, John and Neil have done an amazing job. But you can't do it without an unreal teammate. And yeah, I had a good start, but that finish, my God. I mean, it's his first year racing. Come on. And he's out there beating everybody. I was incredibly proud. I can't thank Robert Hanley, our owner, enough. He's trusted me with teaching this kid, trying to teach him what I know, but pretty soon I'm going to be out of a job. So, awesome job.
Awesome job, indeed. Really great stuff, and what a cool relationship. You could tell how much it means between those two. What a phenomenal finish to this race and a great result for Dan Hanley, who it wasn't without its scary moments, as we see right there, but still, he was able to get the job done.
Yeah, and it's just going to boost his confidence. I mean, he talked about his journey and how quickly he's made that journey from Parker Thompson's perspective, and to seal the deal and hang on. And, you know, he had that little moment there, but that was all cool. Just made it more fun to watch.
Certainly was. Well, that's the silver class winners checked off the list. Let's go ahead and head back down and hear from the Pro-Am class winners now in victory lane.
Well, we do know that Elias gets excitable with wins, but he is actually this color right now because his cool suit was not working during that race. And Elias, gosh, I talked to you right prior to the race, just what a special place Sebring is for you. But it's been a breakout year all around for this team. What do you point to as the key of that?
Yeah, last year at Sebring was my first win. And there's two things I would credit all the success. Andy Lee, he's literally the best coach in the world. He helps me get pace, things I struggle with. And the Flying Lizard team and Owen Hayes, they're just the best in the paddock, and they give us a great car every time to drive. So all credit to these guys.
Andy, we get to see your drivers improve week in, week out, and I've talked to several of the drivers in that first stint just about the talent that they were surrounded by today. Where do you find yourself improving or finding just matches on track that excite you?
I mean, I don't know. I think the thing that makes me most excited when we come to Sebring is just this place seems to suit our style really well, and Owen is just a magician with the car here. For whatever reason, we just have this place in our pocket, so that's very exciting. And this guy works harder than anybody I've ever met. He really wants it more than anybody I know, and so it's just a testament to how hard he's been working and practicing. So really happy to be here. It's been a long road this season. We've had a lot of little setbacks, but finally made it.
Congratulations, guys, and 2 more this weekend.
Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect start to the weekend for that pairing, and that keeps them in the championship mix as well. 4 races to go. No reason they can't be there.
No, if you could literally sweep this weekend, that would be a huge point swing heading to Indy.
2 races at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway still to come after 2 more remaining here at Sebring. We still have our AM class drivers to hear from. Let's go ahead and hear from them next. Amanda has caught up in victory lane.
Well, Charlie, I will tell you that we've been talking about the heat that the drivers experience today, so you are not too red to be on TV, as you just asked. But gosh, man, what intense driving from you to get to the lead in class, and title defense at its finest.
Title defense is looking good. We won't, there's a long way to go, obviously. But it's once again all set up by James. He put me in great position. A little bit of a hiccup coming out of the pits, but after that, the best part about that race was being able to race wheel to wheel, and everyone was clean, everyone gave space, and it's just a lot of fun, and really glad to be in P1 and a few more to go.
We're in the unique position that from here we'll go into qualifying tomorrow. James, what did you guys learn here today that will continue this effort through the weekend?
I think we've been good with overall pace of the car, and of course that's what matters in qualifying. And I think for us at this track, it's going to be a little bit different setup, a little bit different approach to qualifying. But I think more what we learned here is we get 2 more iterations of long run pace, and I think we probably picked up something today. We'll work on it, and I think we'll be a little bit better off for the next 2 races.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Remember when they said they were done after last year? 7 race wins later, I think coming back was a pretty good choice for the reigning AM class champions who look like they're en route to another. Let's look at highlights from race 1 of the weekend. It all started with the green flag flying down the front straightaway. Great fight at the front of this field. Random vandals against Handley Motorsports. That's going to be the case for the bulk of this race. Fights breaking out all throughout the field, but it was Kenton Cook who was able to secure the lead of the race early on. After the pit stops, though, it was Dan Handley who inherited the lead from Parker Thompson, who had a stellar opening stint. Dan went on a wild ride, bicycling through and over the curbs a few times. This too a wild ride. Well, it's about to be. Rosh West and Anthony Girazzi had a couple close calls, including one right here that ended the race, or any contention really, for both of these cars. Able to make it back out on the track though. Final lap, some fireworks. And here was Anderson up the inside, able to make the pass on Kevin Boehm. That was for 2nd in the class. Boehm just barely held on to 3rd at the line, but the winning car, Handley Motorsports, Dan Handley, Parker Thompson, pick up the race win, the first race of the weekend at Sebring. And the podium celebrations underway, starting with the AM class. Paul Sparta to the left, Al Carter to the right, taking home another podium result. This is going to be a big celebration, I suspect. Second place for the RS1 team, Roland and Austin Crines, father and son, with, I think, as far as I could remember, their best result of the season.
Yeah, superb dice, and Clay and Postons, they're tough to beat, right? I mean, they're so strong. Got a great car underneath them from Bimmer World, so they look like they're well on track for another championship. But that was a fascinating battle. Just lots of ebb and flow there in the last 10, 15 minutes for those podium spots.
AM class really provided the fireworks late in this race until the silver class kind of took over on the final lap. But it was a great drive from first James Clay and then Charlie Postons to pick his way up through the field and ultimately take the lead with about 10 laps to go.
Yeah, he handled it magnificently and basically got 2 spots in the space of one front straightaway. Exit at turn 17, exit at turn 1. He went from 3rd to 1st.
Yeah. Hard to get too excited, though, when you know you got to do this again, not once, but twice still in the Florida heat this weekend.
Yeah, maybe just 1 beer and not 2, right?
Right. There's the champagne celebration for the AM class podium. 3rd place to Random Vandals, Paul Sparta and Al Carter. 2nd to Roland and Austin Crines from the RS1 team. And the race winners in class for the 7th time this season and 6th consecutive, James Clay and Charlie Postons. What an impressive record they have put together over the past nearly 2 seasons within Pirelli GT4 America. I think they'd be used to the celebration thing by now. Expect to see the Pro-Am podium up next. And Elias Sabo held on, but Matt Travis was charging late, Calvin. And that could be a sign of things to come. I think NOLA Sport might be a team to keep an eye on this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, certainly in terms, we talked about some of the cars being out of position based on NOLA qualifying versus their pace here at Sebring. I think the Porsche certainly showcased that it's got some pace. So get out tomorrow morning, see how the guys can qualify. It's a big weekend. You really need to, it's moving day in terms of the championship here this weekend. And you need a really solid weekend to put yourself in contention, get yourself back on the front foot for Indianapolis.
Listen in as DJ Clark introduces the Pro-Am podium.
Walker Jr. and Tyler in P2, in the number 47 NOLA Sport Porsche, let's hear a big round of applause for Matt Travis and Jason Hart! And on the top step, in the number 8 Flying Lizard Motorsports Aston Martin, Elias Sabo and Andy Lee!
There is the podium in Pro-Am. Great runs all around. All 3 of these crews right there fighting for the championship. These have been the protagonists all season long, so no surprise to see them sharing the podium.
No, I think it's going to be a fascinating battle all the way to the wire. So every move, every race is significant at this point in the championship. You set it up through the first phase of the season, and now it's go time.
How close do you feel like you've got to be going into the final 2 races at Indianapolis to feel like you've got a chance?
You'd love to control your own destiny, so if you sweep the weekend there, that would be enough. So I'd say if you're within that, 14 points would be ideal. So if we go out there and nothing anyone else can do if we could sweep the weekend.
Sure.
But you know what, if you're further back, you're just going to hope for the best and just do what you can on that final weekend and hope the others have trouble.
Well, Travis and Hart know all about that. If you go back a few years,
took them a while to break through.
It came down to the very end of the season in both instances and ended up on the wrong side of that. So they came out and just dominated finally in that 3rd year to pick up the championship in 2021, or 2022 rather. Nope, it was 21. And that was the first of 2 consecutive for Jason Hart. Drove with Scott Noble last year to the title and now reunited with Matt Travis here in 2023. With big plans for the rest of this season, trying to make it 3 in a row for the team and for Jason Hart as the sun starts to set here in Central Florida. Track goes quiet for the night, but still 2 full days of racing to come. Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS with a pair of 90-minute races. 2 more Pirelli GT4 America races still to come. Couple of races for TC America powered by Skip Barber, among others. We will be up early tomorrow for Fanatec GT qualifying. It's before 9 o'clock local time. Pair of 15-minute sessions that set the grid for the 2 90-minute races here this weekend. Top 3, not just in silver, but overall, about to take the rostrum. There's JCD and Zach Anderson. That move from Anderson was as high commitment as we have seen all season.
Good respect there between Kevin and Zach there on the rostrum there. Just good hard racing. He had to go for it. Final lap, final corner. Saw the gap, wedged it through there. May have been a slight brush, but that was all good and clean and just good hardcore racing.
And this duo, this has been a while in the making, but this is a team that only came together mere days before the start of the season. Their pace has not been in doubt, but putting it all together on a race weekend has been the challenge. Today they do it. Dan Hanley, Parker Thompson, fending off Zach Anderson and John Capestro-Dubets, and Kevin Boehm and Kenton Cook complete the podium in the silver class. That is a fun way to whet the appetite for the weekend to come here at Sebring. Race 1 in the books for Pirelli GT4 America, powered by Pirelli. 2 more still to come. Hope you join us for the rest of the weekend here in Sebring.